Welcome, everybody. Good evening. And we are going to discuss some things into this Parsha. Let's see if I have it straight. This week is Parsha's Terumah. First of all, I want to welcome back Arnold Mannering, who is back to class. And thank you for Bob and Jackie for bringing him here so we can feel back to normal. And I'm sure your daughter arrived okay, or she's still flying?
She's in New Zealand now.
New Zealand. No corona in New Zealand?
I've got no idea.
No idea. The Rabbi still helps if we go peaceful and come
They
back.
had corona, they got Karen instead.
You said it, I didn't say it.
Karen is corona.
Parshas Terumah, trainer. That's right. Parshas Terumah in Yechubi starts on page 444, 445 in the English. The name of the Parsha is called Terumah. Terumah means a share, a portion, a contribution, a donation. There's all the different interpretations and translations, but the meaning is the same. Very interesting. We just got the Torah at Sinai. The Torah was given to us, 10 Commandments, and the many other laws which were discussed in Parshas Mishpatim. And finally God comes with an interesting offer. And this is that you are going to make me a home called Mikdash, a sanctuary, and I am going to dwell in your midst. Ve'asuli Mikdash, this is what the verse says, if you see on verse 8 on the same page. Ve'asuli Mikdash, they shall make me a sanctuary, ve'shochanti besoichom, so that I may dwell among them. Now the famous medrash, which we mentioned probably a million times, that the medrash says, it doesn't say ve'shachanti betocho, I should dwell amongst you, rather betocham, amongst them, indicates that the Shekhinah was dwelling betoich kol echad ve'echad misrol, amongst them, the first of the people. God says, you make me a sanctuary and I will dwell by you, in you. But he's asking for each and every person to be a part of making the sanctuary. Which means, in other words, it could have worked. We experienced a few miracles at this point. The splitting of the sea, the descending of the manna. So we could have also found one morning in the camp a nice menorah, a table, an altar, coming down, made in China, made in heaven, made in the US, made in heaven. We experienced already things coming down from heaven. Lechem min hashamayim, bread came down from heaven, right? That's called the manna. We heard the voice of God coming down from heaven. We saw the splitting of the sea. No, would have been another miracle that we're going to remember for the rest of time, that they woke up one morning and they saw a menorah. And then they saw a table, and yet they saw an altar, and God said, take those items that you found outside, which I'm responsible for the delivery, and make me a sanctuary for them. Comes the Torah and says, no, that's not the way I want the sanctuary to be made. I want the sanctuary to be made specifically by the gifts given by the people. Each and every person is going to have an opportunity to be a part of making this sanctuary. We also live in make yourself at home. Each and every person is going to have a part to build that sanctuary. And the Torah lists about 15 items that people, here it's mentioned 13, later there is more, 13 items which people can bring in order to participate in constructing the sanctuary. Starting with the highest bit, the highest share. This is coming with the idea of contributing gold, going down to silver, lower than that is copper, different types of wools, different types of skin, wood, oil, spices, gems. People can bring whatever they need, whatever they want. And all this is going to serve the purpose of a mikdash, of making a sanctuary. Nachon? Why was it so important for the people to bring the items? So this is something which we discussed also many times, probably throughout the years. Something which is being discussed in length in Hasidus. The Rebbe spoke about it many times. That the mikdash is something which is meant to serve as a permanent place for God, not a temporary place for God. Usually, whenever God revealed himself to the people, whenever God himself initiated the relationship with the world, how was it? It came and then it left. It didn't stay there forever. The biggest example is, what's the biggest example of God revealing himself and then disappearing and not even leaving a trace of his impact? Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai was the holiest place for the couple hours that God visited Mount Sinai, or for the few days that he asked to prepare Mount Sinai as a location for his revelation. But the moment the shofar sounded, Bimshoch HaYovel, Heima Yalu Bahar, the verse says. 3 days, no one can go up the mountain. Right? No people, no animals. Once the 3 days pass, there's going to be a sound of a shofar, but that sound of the shofar represents the ascent of the Shekhinah, which is, by the way, the reason brought down in Shulchan Aruch why we have the shofar being sounded at Ne'ilah. The entire day of Yom Kippur is a day that God dwells among us. It's the time when Hashem is revealing himself to us. And when it comes to Ne'ilah, that is when the Shekhinah lives, the Shekhinah ascends, the Shekhinah goes up, and the elevation of the Shekhinah is represented by the sounding of the shofar. Just like by Har Sinai, when the shofar blow, represented that God leaves the mountain. And from that point on, what is our Mount Sinai serving for? If you would only know where Mount Sinai is, which is a big debate and dialogue among historians and archaeologists and all kinds of people are trying to identify where is the real Mount Sinai. There's one place they say it is, but for some reason it's a very tall mountain. In tradition, Mount Sinai represents a very low mountain. So there's a discussion exactly where and exactly Har Sinai is. But whatever it is, today if you go up on Mount Sinai and you want to play football, will anyone stop you? It will be kosher. You can play football on Mount Sinai. You can bring up your sheep. You can bring up your other animals to come and walk around Mount Sinai. There's no holiness to Mount Sinai. The Temple Mount, with the temple stood for all these years, the holiness is there forever, eternal. Till today, a Jew is not allowed to go up on the Temple Mount. There is a sign there by the government of Israel, a warning that you should know that according to Jewish law, you're not allowed to go up on the Temple Mount. Some people go, listen, some people don't listen, some people think they know which part of the Temple Mount you could go, you can't go. I'm sure you read it in Jerusalem Post and in the forward and whatever other Jewish magazines you read and follow, so you know that this is like by modern day became a shtickle debate, you know, of people trying to go up the mountain in certain areas. The people who know, but we know one thing for sure, everybody agrees that there is certain areas of the Temple Mount that no Jew is allowed to come up today's day and age because we are ritually unclean. And you're not allowed to walk up there. Since we don't know exactly what is spots, so 99% of Jews don't go at all to Mount Sinai. I mean, observing Jews. There is a group which they have against it. Very strong.
What if somebody went up there?
Who did it? But he was a very sincere Jew. Happens to be English. And his name was Sir Moshe Montefiore. And Moshe Montefiore came to visit Jerusalem. He was there a couple of times. And one of the times he went up to the Temple Mount. He actually went up in a creative way which should have halachically not be considered. He knew that you're not allowed to go up there. But he thought that if you go up in this way, in another way, he created a whole phenomenon to be able to go up there and not to be considered walking on the, like in a certain box, on a wagon. He worked out a system. He wasn't like completely ignoring the idea. But then he learned that that was wrong too. And he asked to be lashed on the public market in Jerusalem, to be lashed for violating the so-called prohibition. It wasn't like formal lashes which was given during temple time. We don't have the ability to do it today. But symbolically he wanted to show, Sir Montefiore wanted to show, you never heard it? Some people, probably some other people heard it. Yeah, it's a famous thing about him, that he went up and then he was asked to be lashed. So, to make a statement that what he did was not really the acceptable thing. I actually had a great uncle, since he didn't have kids, it's good to mention his name, the Moshe Weber of blessed memory. He was a big tzaddik. He was the brother of my great grandmother, my mother's grandmother, my mother's mother, her name was Hinda. But Behinda, last name before she married my grandfather, Rabbi Amram Bloy, her name was Weber. So she had a brother. The brother's name was Moshe Weber. Moshe Weber passed away in the year 1990, 1992. I mean, those years. A very, very special Jew. He did not have children. When he was married, he was actually married to my grandfather's sister, my other grandfather's sister. So he was a great uncle from both sides. He passed away without kids, but he was a big tzaddik, and he stood by the wall many hours every day after 6-day war, till it was almost the last days of his life, and he helped Jews putting on tefillin. Moshe Weber, a phenomenon. And he used to pay money to somebody on his own pocket until the government eventually took it over. He paid money from right after 6-day war. And he saw that people don't realize they go up to the mountain. People weren't aware that, what's allowed, what's not allowed. The Temple Mount was from 1948 to 1968. There was no 67. There was no Jews didn't know. It was under Jordanian control, and Jews didn't go visit. And the new world, and people don't know excitement, and they went up to the Temple Mount. So he paid somebody from his own money, which he earned was to stand there by the mountain and warn Jews not to go up. He had there's even pictures from him in the albums of Israel. There's pictures of this guard, which was also a relative of mine, standing there, a Jew without a beard, a short guy. His name was Ele Groman. And he spoke many languages, so he was able to inform people, making sure that they realized that going up this mountain involves a strong prohibition. So anyway, regardless, so what is the difference? Manishtana. What is the difference that the Temple Mount carried His holiness and His kedusha all the way till today, even there's no temple in it. Matter of fact, not only there's no temple, there is a mosque, right? Al-Aqsa and so on. And yet, the place which the greatest revelation took place, Mount Sinai, the holiness disappeared. Nobody remembers, nobody knows, people walk, people go up, down, and it's okay, meaning from a Torah perspective it's okay. So the answer which is being explained in Chassidus and Land, that when it came to Mount Sinai, the people were not involved in creating Mount Sinai as a place for God. God himself picked that mountain as a location to reveal himself and give the Torah there. A place which is not initiated by people, the presence of godliness does not penetrate. Does not penetrate and does not stay there permanently. In a place which people are involved, when we are the ones who so-called initiate godliness to reveal and to appear, then it has an everlasting impression. When it came to make the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash, God tells Moshe, I want the people to make it. It's not going to be, I'm going to come in, but it has to come, and I'm only going to come in once the people have created it. People have created it. This is the whole concept which Hasidus puts a big emphasis on the idea of God desiring us to initiate his presence here. Then is when it stays. Then is when it has permanency. So the Mishkan in this week's Parsha is a discussion. Every year we study it. Usually during the summer we study about it again. This is the 3 weeks when we are mourning the destruction of the temple. So we go back to Rambam and to the Talmud and to the different Medrashim, trying to understand what was the Mishkan, what was the Mikdash. You know, it's a very interesting subject. Interesting. It should be an interesting subject when you know that you are discussing about God's home. Who doesn't want to know how God's home looked like? And what did it contain? And what was his message? And how was the things positioned there? I personally, I can tell you, I have an interest in it all the years. You know, not I don't have the time in the world to go and spend all my life on the subject, but it's of interest. You know, anytime you see a book or an article or you study the Parsha and again, it's like grabs your mind, thinking, wow, if God wants it, this is it has to carry a lot of meaning. You know, what does it mean? Why? How does it look? How do you measure it? We had a number of tabernacles. Historically, we had a number of tabernacles. Started with the first tabernacle in the desert, the one that is being discussed in this Parsha. It continued into the land of Israel, which was positioned in different areas because we didn't settle anywhere yet. Not Jerusalem. Jerusalem was the final destination. It was in a place called Nov, in a place called Giv'on. It was in a place called Shiloh. Shiloh was the place just before Jerusalem. Shiloh was almost like a house. There was Shiloh or Shiloh. This is a place that the Mishkan stood there for many years, 369 years. The Rambam says 369 years. The temple did not stood more than, the second temple was 420 years, but that's it. But in Shiloh it was, the Rambam says that in Nov and Givon it was 57 years, and in Shiloh it was 369 years. Shin Samach Teh Shana Omad Mishkan Shiloh.
What was in Beit El?
No, Shiloh is the place of the location.
Yeah, I said.
But there was no, in Bethel there was no Mishkan. No. There was Gilgal, that was the first place. Gilgal was the first entry. When they came into Israel, they built the Mishkan in a place called Gilgal, because these they waited for 14 years until they conquered the land, and they divided the land between the tribes. And from Gilgal is when they went to Shiloh. Shiloh is where they stood 369 years. And then they came to Nob. Samuel the prophet was in Nob. Givon. Yeah. The Beis HaMikdash, according to our tradition, according to the Torah, we are expecting a third Beis HaMikdash. But I'm going to have to deal with the High Court in Israel, the Bagatz, to allow us to build it or not.
Yeah.
How's it going to work with the United Nations, and how's it going to work with Bernie, your president, what's his name, your new president? Bernie, you know, whatever it is. Don't blame Arnold. Come on. The thing is, whatever it will be, we are expecting a third Beis HaMikdash. The third Beis HaMikdash is also going to be built by man. And at the same time, it's going to have some aspect of supernatural kinds of phenomenon. And the Rambam writes that Mashiach is building the third Beis HaMikdash. One of the signs, when somebody declares, or when we declare about somebody to be the candidate for Mashiach, or the potential Mashiach, before he builds the temple, he cannot be Mashiach. Mashiach is one of the signs which leads him to his confirmation as Mashiach. Even after he builds the temple, he's still not Mashiach. But this is one of the leading signs of the Rambam. The Rambam is the one who legalized the system of recognizing Mashiach. And one of the things is to build a temple. And the temple can only be built in Yerushalayim. If you go on YouTube, you can find a temple built in Brazil, which they say looks amazing, significant, right? And there's all kinds of temples that people build, but our temple can only be built in Yerushalayim. Every synagogue, God told Ezekiel the prophet, in the prophecy of Ezekiel, God says that during the times of exile, every synagogue carries the status of a miniature temple, a miniature sanctuary. Ve'ehi lohem le'mikdash me'at. I shall be for them as a miniature sanctuary. This refers to the synagogues. That's the temple, that's the home, so-called, speak for God. But the ultimate home is still something that we are waiting for. We are waiting. So there were many things happening and involved in the temple. And every aspect of it is special. Certain things we don't even know. For example, the Rambam writes regarding the table of the showbread. They had a special table which they used to place bread every Shabbos and let it stay there for the entire week. The following week, change it with a new set of loaves, distribute the old ones to the Kohanim, and put on another set which was kept yet for another week. And it was placed in the holiest, right here in the front. And the Rambam says, I have no idea I don't know what it served for. What's the idea? A korban, whatever, atonement, closeness. The showbread, he says, Yaniznaya. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And there's other things which we don't know. I would like to speak tonight a little bit about, in order to at least concentrate on something, I would like to discuss a little bit the menorah. First of all, there is a very common mistake that people make about the form, the format, the shape of the temple's menorah. For example, if you take a look right here on the shelf, so you have a menorah, okay? It's called the Hanukkah, but this is a menorah. The menorah only had 6, meaning 3 on each side. Hanukkah obviously had 8. But this is a common traditional shape of menorah. I believe that's the shape that they have in the Knesset, no? In Israel, something like that. Similar. They have in many synagogues, they have like a round menorah. Anyone who visited Rome, don't go to Italy right now, but in If you visit Italy, anyone was in Rome? Who was in Rome?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went to visit the Titus Gate. That's one of the locations that big tourist attraction, and they have carved into the gate to the gate made out of stone. They have carved in designs of the Jewish captives carrying the utensils of the Beit HaMikdash with them from Jerusalem, exiled into Rome, right? This was a 2,000 year, it goes back to the time when it happened. And you see people carrying a menorah. And the menorah is actually shaped round. A round menorah. And that's why in many synagogues, old synagogues, modern day synagogues, you can find that the image of a menorah is like this round candelabra, right? Round. The Rambam, Maimonides, wrote with his own hands a diagram of the menorah, and it's actually printed. It was discovered, the manuscript was discovered, about maybe 40 years ago, and he clearly, you see that the Rambam made the menorah in the way it is made right here on our parochet. What is this shape called?
Triangle?
Crajal?
Triangle?
No.
Not triangle.
V?
No, V?
Shape.
A V.
No, V, but there's a name for it.
V?
Has to be some name for it, I remember. In Hebrew they say alachson. How do you say alachson in English?
Victoria.
Phone is at an angle.
At an angle, but
Yeah.
it's more than just an angle.
Yeah. Maybe it's biblical.
So I'm gonna take a little walk, show you the Rambam just for a moment here instead of what we're talking about. This is the Rambam's personal handwriting. Okay? You see? This is the menorah. There is the Rambam colored it and draw it with his own hands. That's in you can find it, they have now the manuscript in the Hebrew University in Israel. Right? Just like here before the Prophet. Not round. No, you see, not this way, not the way you have it in your Chumash. This is the Rambam's handwriting, you see? This is a manuscript, a copy of the Rambam's, with my man drew the menorah. What? Okay, this is the Ksavia, this is the actual manuscript of the Rambam.
The word that you're looking for is diagonal.
The Yagenol. Okay, that's probably the better word, yes. What? Show it to the camera. Camera! This is what the Rambam wrote for his own writing. Camera doesn't answer me. It means you saw it? That's a he or she? The menorah, so in 1981, I believe, the Rebbe actually came out, he made a big deal about it, that we should stay away from the wrong shaped menorah. He wanted people to change the menorahs on the curtains. The Rebbe was in the opinion that the round menorahs comes from Christians and non-Jews who were drawn in Rome, and he says that the whole idea there was to show that the Jews are not dominating anymore. They have no control. We are in control of them. And there is even the word Yuda Kapota, which means Jews are in captivity. There was times that Jews were forced to come to the gate here, to the gate and watch how their holiest utensils are being schlepped away from Jerusalem. It was a place to disgrace and to embarrass, so to speak, And the main thing is, if you wonder, so, but if they have a shape of the menorah, so it must be the shape. The Rebbe said no. The Rebbe said that in the temple there were other menorah stones. There were candelabras, which was used to illuminate the temple. But that wasn't the menorah that we are speaking about here in this Parsha, which was serving as a specific service of the Mishkan, that every day Aaron had to light the menorah. That menorah was the way you have it right here, the way I showed you what the Rambam did. Then there was other candelabras, like every home has a bunch of candelabras, and there was round ones, and that was the picture which is placed on the gate of the gate of Tatus. Now, what happens is that became one of the biggest Jewish symbols, right? A big Jewish symbol became, the most famous one became a golden menorah, even though if you read this Parsha, and as we all know, whatever you know, the content of the Mishkan, there were other holy objects. There was the Oren, the Holy Ark, which actually is the first thing that is being discussed to make in the Mishkan. The first thing in a way, which as the Ramban Nachmanides says, that it wasn't just the first mentioned, because someone has to be first. Rather, Nachmanides explains that the main purpose of the Mishkan was actually the Oren, was the Ark. And you know why? Because God says, I want you to make me a place that I should dwell there. And who was the dwelling place of God? Who was God revealing himself? Who was the communication taking place? On top of the ark, between the chariots, and the kruvim. That's where the voice came out, and so on, like it says in the verse. This is where I'm going to meet you. That was the point of meeting. There was the table of the showbread. There was a special altar that they offer the spices every day. There was obviously the big altar, which they offer the daily offerings, korban tamid, the additional offerings every Shabbos, every Yom Tov, every Rosh Chodesh, called the korban musaf, right? The big mizbeach. Nevertheless, what sticks out and what somehow became the symbol of the Mishkan, associated with symbolic Jewish history or celebration or centrality. What is it? It's the menorah. Why the menorah? So some commentaries, something which is being discussed among the commentators, and some commentators speak about the idea that it's a way that we express our yearning, our desire, our looking forward to being an era which the world is going to be illuminated. An era of light. Or, in davening, there's an expression, in some versions of tefillah, Or chadash al tzion tochin, v'niske kulanu b'me'er al. A new light shall shine on Zion. It's an expression that comes from Tanakh. And it could be also the fact that we have such a long-lasting holiday called Hanukkah, 8 days, right? A very celebrated holiday, a very, traditional holiday. Every day you light a menorah, remembering the lights of the temples. Even though, like we said before, there's a big difference between the menorah and the Chanukiah. This has eight branches. Actually, we have 9 if you count also the Shamash. And the menorah in the Mikdash was only 7. According to Halacha, according to the Torah, it is actually forbidden to imitate exactly the temple utensils. That's why it's forbidden to make a 7-branch menorah. Either you make it 6 or you make it 8. Some say if you don't make it out of metal, it's also okay, because in the temple it was made out of gold, it was made out of, if you make it out of wood, it will be kosher, and so on and on. Now, There's an interesting discussion in the Gemara. The Gemara in Menachos, the Gemara discusses, this is a discussion which took place about 200 years, about 200 years after the temple was already destroyed. And there was a discussion between two sages, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, which was called Rabbi, and Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer is the famous son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Shimon Bar Yochai, the son of Eliezer. It was the kid who was together with his father in the cave, hiding for 12 or 13 years. What was the discussion? The discussion was, the Gemara said exactly what was the order, what was the angle which the menorah stood in the Beis Hamikdash. According to Rabbi Eliezer, it stood the way this menorah is placed right here. It stood in the angle of the width of the Eichal. Eichal means the chamber of holiness. So if you walked into the room, you saw the menorah in this way. Okay? Came Rabbi and says, no, it stood in this way. So when you walked into the temple, what did you see? One candle, one flame. Came around, you saw more flames, but you didn't see all the flames. According to Rabbi Eliezer, anybody walked into the temple immediately was able to get a view of the entire menorah lighting. And this technical discussion, which is a big discussion in the Talmud, and by the way, when the Rebbe passed away in 1994, I told you maybe a few times, they found in his drawer, the table in his desk, which was in his room, so one of the drawers had like a big, what do you call it, file, not a file, like, like a classeur that you put papers into a folder, a binder. He found a big binder, actually a couple binders, full of writings in very small letters, which he wrote during his years in Paris, in Berlin, in Venetia, Vichy, while he was running from the Germans, while he studied in Sorbonne. He wrote Torah insights, which he never ever shared with anyone. Not only didn't he share by letting it to be printed and so on, even in his discussions, the Rebbe spoke non-stop, right? He spoke thousands and thousands of hours. He never referenced to something that you wrote in those years. This came with him to America when he arrived there, when he escaped the Nazis. The Rebbe, as we know, took the last sheep out of Portugal, and he came to America in Sivan in the summer of 1941, escaping Nazi Germany, escaping Nazi France. The Nazis already came into France. He was running from Paris down to Vichy and this, and then eventually came to Portugal, and there is where he took the last sheep up to America. He came in Sivan, the 28th of Sivan, 1941. And he came with a chemidan, a small suitcase, and he got a desk, the same desk. The desk is still in his room till today. There was the desk. And in the drawer, there was those. The Rebbe passed away, 1994. They opened the desk, and they saw all this writing, so they made a special committee, which published that every week for years, came out every week, another piece of that writing. It was called the manuscripts, in Hebrew called the Reshimot. I have it at home, now it's about 6 volumes. In addition to the 6 volumes, he wrote almost like a book, called the Reshima of the menorah, meaning the discussion about the menorah. Next time, I don't think I have it here. I have it at home. Reshimas HaMenorah. No. So in that menorah, which this is actually the only writing that he did mention once or twice through the years in a letter, he referenced when he spoke about menorah, as I had written in length in my writings about the menorah, which nobody knows what is he referring to, because he never told anybody that he has a bunch of writings. That Reshima called menorah is almost an entire book which discusses the one and only subject. Menorah this way or menorah that way. This dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi, which we just mentioned from the Gemara, the Rabbi goes in the Rambam in his commentary to Mishnah, the Rambam in his court of law, making a whole discussion back and forth and proofs from this Medrash, from this Gemara, who is right, who is wrong, and why should we say this and why should we say this, and on and on and on and on. One of the insights that he shares there, he says, what's the difference? This way or that way, what's the difference? He says, one obvious difference is as follows. If we go with the opinion that the menorah was placed towards the width of the room, right? In that case, all candles, all flames share an equal value. Because I walk into the room, and what did I see? I see them all simultaneously. The fact that you see them all simultaneously indicates that what? That they carry a common denominator, something which allows all of them to be considered equally. And that's why they face you equally. And that's why you see them equally. However, if we go with the opinion that the menorah is placed towards the length of the room, in that case, considering the person walking into the temple, what does he see? He sees one flame. So that carries the great value. He walks in, he says, there's something else here. And as he walks by, he says, aha, there's even a third one. There's even a fourth one. But you keep on recognizing each one individually, right? Representing that each candle carries an individual value, not an equal common value. And that's what it goes into a long discussion about whether the candles are shaveh b'shaveh, are all equally common, or whether or not we relate to them to each one individually, and on and on and on. One of the concepts, it goes as follows. In general, as we said before, the menorah is the symbol of Judaism. I think the state of Israel's symbol is also a menorah, right? Modern state of Israel. Mm-hmm. Isn't it? What's the symbol of the state of Israel?
It's Magen David.
I don't think so.
No, that's the flag.
That's on the flag. What's the symbol?
Yeah.
A menorah. Right? The menorah became the symbol. But there was a big discussion, by the way. Huh? Are you looking up Wikipedia?
No, Google.
Oh, Google.
Rabbi Google.
Reb Google sucht.
It's actually 7. 6, 3 things and 1 in the middle.
What is that?
It's round also.
It's like this.
Mm-hmm.
Google thinks it's round.
Do you see?
Probably Alexa thinks it's the other way.
I have no idea.
They disagree.
This is the one that I remember.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the idea of being a symbol? So he explains as follows. There are two main ideas in every person, what are you considering the main part of a person? It's obviously the heart and the brain, right? That's what makes the person alive. And same thing in the so-called, in the general symbol of Am Yisrael, the Jews as a nation. Also, there is the Jewish brain and there's the Jewish heart. You have to view it each one separately. The brain, you all know what the brain represents. Seichel, wisdom, Torah. Torah is associated usually with the brain. But then there is also the heart. What is the heart? The heart are the attributes. The heart are what we call in Hebrew midot. You leaving already?
No.
We should say goodbye to you.
No, I'm coming back.
It's going to New York tonight. They're going a whole group with Rabbi Elishevitz, the Sitim Shabbat.
11 of them.
Huh?
11 of them.
11 of them are going. Hashem should watch over them.
Amen.
I have a nephew who's coming from Israel with a group to the C-team weekend. They have over 2,000 teams there. How much did Delta say? 2,000, 3,000?
2,800, I thought he
2,800. So he sent me a picture from Ben Gurion Airport before. I'll show you the picture. About 80% of the kids are wearing those
Mass.
masks, and they're away from Ben Gurion Airport to New York. Sugar. Very bad. I think Israel said people should not travel if you don't have to. I mean, they had it all prepared before. Israel came out with a statement. Hashem should help. You remember anything like that throughout your life, that something like this should happen now? No. This is a nice zach, huh?
The black
But
plague.
the thing is about the masks, they're not meant to prevent you catching anything. It's meant to prevent you
Giving stuff.
giving
Yeah,
about by
that's
Oh,
right.
really?
sneezing or
They
whatever
say
it
don't.
is.
Okay, so I'm not buying it. Sure.
No.
They don't even have it. They can't even. They
You
can't
don't
even-
need it.
I don't need it.
No.
Okay. If they're going to ask me why I don't have it, I say Arnold said I don't need it.
You don't need it because I say you're not sneezing against and sending out.
Just be careful. Stay, stay. Have to be careful with what we
Sei gesund.
Darf sein gesund.
Don't
Safe to
worry.
go to New York?
What?
Safe to go to New
They're
York?
going to be okay. I mean, your mother has to worry because that's your job. That's nothing to do with
No, our father is worried, not mother.
say that.
Then
They're just doing their job. Nothing to do with anything. Should be okay. Right. So basically, the Alter Rebbe discusses it. The Alter Rebbe discusses it in Torah or in much length. He speaks about the 7 menorah. This menorah, there's a reason that it's created in such a format of seven separate candles, because there are actually different types of people. There is not one, like by the Torah there's one Torah, right? By the Torah there's one Torah. But when it comes to people and people's feelings and people's development of character, there's different people. There is a person which is motivated and dominated by the attribute of chesed, kindness. That's who he is. Love, closeness, an approach of giving. It's one type of person. There's another type of person which is motivated by awe, restraint. I'm not talking in a negative way, I'm talking in a positive way. His emphasis, if you ask him, what are you dealing more with? Loving God or respecting God? In a way of like keeping away from doing negative things because I fear him, I respect him. Says, my job, I am better on the way of respecting him. Do I love him? Am I motivated by love? I'm not. I'm not doing it. This is not me, right? Different people are different attributes. For somebody it is glory, for somebody it is compassion, for somebody it is, teaching. Every person relates differently. Every person relates differently. So the Alter Rebbe says, and this is what the Rebbe says in that writing. He says that Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, he was called, usually they refer to him as Rabbi. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, the author of the Mishnah, is in Talmud referred to as what? Rabbi. That's what they call him, Rabbi. The Rebbe says, Rabbi, he was the leader of Am Yisrael. That's what makes a difference between him and Rabbi Eliezer. He was the Rebbe of Am Yisrael. He was like a person who was involved with the people, concerned about the people, all about the people, for the people, about the people. So for him, he looked at the menorah and he sees, yes, there is all kinds of people. There is those who are involved in chesed, there are those who are involved in gevura, there are those who are involved in tiferet, whatever Kabbalistic term you use, but it's not, the Kabbalistic aspect is not important. It's different characteristics, right? Do we look alike? Baruch Hashem not, right? Do we look alike? No. So the Medrash says we don't look alike and we don't think alike and we don't feel alike. People are different, which is 100% normal. And therefore, there are differences. There's one who serves God motivated by love. There's one who serves God which is motivated by fear. There's one who serves God motivated by something else. And therefore, they're all a part of a menorah, but there are differences. And the one who serves God out of love is different than the one who serves out of fear. Don't put them all on the same page. There are differences, and it's important to recognize the differences. Yes, they're all part of a menorah. They're all part of serving as a source of light and energy for the world and for God. But there are differences. Rabbi was very important for him to emphasize the differences. So that's why he says the menorah was placed on the land to show, yes, that when you're walking, you're not going to see the whole thing. You're going to see one, then you might see another, and then yet you're going to discover there's even a seventh and a sixth. But you should know, at the end of your journey, in being, watching, and interested in looking and reviewing each and every one differently, just remember they all come from a menorah. They're all together in it. They all come from the same base. But it's okay, and it's more than okay. The normal way of looking at a menorah is to see one without seeing the other even yet. This is Rebbe's opinion. Rabbi Eliezer, he says, and his outlook was no. Rabbi Eliezer was altogether not too involved with the people. If you remember when they left the cave, after being 12 years, he was more than his father. He became so extreme. When he saw people planting the field, working in a field, his eyes became like laser, like ready to burn them. So what are people doing? Why are they involving themselves in a physical world? He forgot. He forgot that somebody has to make a living, right? And the Gemara says, to the point that he was sent back to the cave, right? He was sent back to the cave for another year. Hello, relax. Not everybody's coming out of a cave 12 years and being detached from this world. The world is a world that runs by, planting and sowing and gardening. But Rabbi Eliezer, until the rest of his life, there's all kinds of interesting Talmudic stories, until the rest of his life, he couldn't really face the reality of this world. He really kept himself kind of transcendence, like detachment. He couldn't relate to it. And then Rabbi Eliezer, when he had to talk about the menorah, he saw in the menorah the symbol not of the heart, but the symbol of the brain, the symbol of Torah. So when he looked at it, he said, this is the way I see it. There's one equal light generating from the one equal source, and this is the wisdom of God. I don't want to hear about any differences. In this area of wisdom, of the intellectual aspect of Judaism and Torah, there's only the wisdom of God. There's no differences. I don't want to see any differences. I don't want to hear about any differences. So even in his opinion, the way the menorah was positioned, yes, there is channels, there is a different candelabra, but they all placed in the same order, all representing the one equal subject, the subject and the light of Chachma. Let's say goodbye to.
Thank you very much.
What are you gonna? Wait, come here a second.
Have a good time.
You're gonna want to buy yourself a pizza? Come here.
No, I already have 6 of them.
No, this is for me.
Thank you.
First of all, this you're gonna give to Tzedakah.
I'll put it in.
And then, hello, a pizza on Kingston Avenue these days is $3.50. One pizza you're gonna buy as a gift to Rabbi Farkash.
Thank you very much.
You eat pizza, pizza, very much.
Thank you. My only pizza, no mashke, no. Enjoy yourself. Come back all rejuvenated. Bring back some inspiration to all of us. Okay, my friend. Seid alle gesund. A gute Nacht. Arnold, you learned something tonight?